Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs and today I have this really fun Penpal, I guess we could call it like a folio, to share with you. So I am going to create a 5x7 base. So I'm cutting my cardstock down to 10x7 and then when I actually go to score it, I'm going to score at the 2.5 inch mark for both sides, creating this kind of, I don't even think it like a trifold. I don't know what this would be called. Sorry, guys. I'm sure that there's an actual name for this kind of a card base, but I don't know. I'm calling it a folio, but whatever you want to call it. Let me know in the comments if you know the actual name of this fold. But this just kind of creates this cool opening to the front of the 5x7. So it's a 5x7 card base. It's just scored a bit differently so that I kind of get this really interesting folding. I don't know how to explain what this is because I don't know what it's called. It's not a trifold because that would be 3 folds and this still only has 2. So I'm not totally sure what the right name for this is, but I'm sure somebody who knows will let me know. So, and I just made sure that it would fit in the 5x7 envelope that I've created. And then for the cardstock for this, I'm actually using some pattern patterns that I've had in my stash for a long time. If you guys have been on any of my lives lately, I've been talking about how I've kind of been hoarding pattern paper and I've been trying to find a fun way to use it. And finally, I came up with this idea. Making pen pal, like goodies for my pen pals, has to be one of my favorite things to do. And so I thought it'd be really fun to use this really pretty paper. This is by Kraft Cardstock. I just showed it to you. It's the Touch of Nostalgia. So I have the 12x12 paper, and then I also had the cut aparts, which I showed you. So in the cut aparts, it comes with 2 sheets of each cut apart. So I actually had already cut out some, and I keep them in that little plastic container I got from Michael's. And that's what I'm going to use to create all of this. Other than that, I do bring in some vellum and I do also bring in some glitter cardstock. But outside of that, everything you see in this, other than the doilies, is from this same cut aparts. So then I cut down a couple of pieces of pattern paper to decorate this folio. So I cut down 2, you see me here, I've picked out 2 different pieces of 12x12 cardstock from that set. And I've cut down one piece for the front and the back and the center. So it's about an 1/8 of an inch. Well, no, I'd say it's about 1/4 of an inch smaller than the 5x7 base because that one panel is actually 5x7. And then I'm going to cut 2 pieces that are just shy of 2.5 by the 7 so that they fit on those kind of panel-y parts. I hope that makes sense. I'm just trying to cover everything with leaving a small margin so that all the folds will still fold nicely. So I don't want to cover anywhere of the score lines are, but I do want to decorate the whole base. And I chose Kraft because I thought Kraft would look really pretty with this cardstock. I actually, for a person who's not a huge fan of brown, I love Kraft Cardstock, which I think is kind of funny when you think about it because it is brown, but it almost, depending on the Kraft Cardstock, it's almost a little bit tan. So that's kind of fun too, I think. But so the Kraft stock that I specifically used for the base is actually Nina Desert Storm that I buy from Simon Says Stamp. But any Kraft cardstock would do. I chose to use that as my base specifically because it is a little bit of a lighter weight and I knew that I was going to be adding a lot of pattern paper and layers to this. So it's kind of what I was thinking. And then I am going to bring in my vintage photo Oxide ink for all of the pieces, whether it be layers like the pattern paper or the cut aparts. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's going to be can I have this vintage photo blended over top of it, just because I kind of like that look and because you will see some of that Kraft cardstock popping out behind all of these pieces anyway. So it just kind of helps it blend in a little bit better and it gives it a little bit more of a vintage feel, though it's pretty subtle. And this isn't something I do super often, but when I do add this kind of edging to things, it's pretty much always vintage photo that I use for it. Not necessary, and you could literally use any color of brown if you wanted to. You could use any color for this. It's just normally people use brown for this kind of a technique, but completely up to you. And I only used vintage photo because I felt like it's probably my favorite of the browns that Tim Holtz has come out with. So that's pretty much the only reason I specifically use this one. You could literally use anything. And I thought it would be really fun to make a pen pal video with you guys. I know that this is not the most popular videos on my channel, and that's perfectly okay because it's not really making a card, although you could make this a card. I don't add a sentiment because that's not what it's for, but you could pretty much follow all of the same steps and then just add a sentiment on the front. And I think that would be really pretty, especially if you wanted to give somebody some crafty supplies, because I am going to fill the little pocket in the front with extra crafty goodies that kind of go with this pattern paper set. But I just think that this is really pretty. And I mean, there are people out there who create stunning pattern paper cards. I'm just not really one of them, just because I generally like to make my own backgrounds. So I don't tend to create pattern paper stuff, but you absolutely can, because it's stunning. Like, look at this. This paper is so pretty. See, this is the problem. I'm like hoarding pattern paper and I don't use it for anything because it's just so pretty. So I like hoard it and then I bust it out every once in a while and I, give it a look and a pet and then I put it back. But I'm trying to be better about that. That is one thing this year I really want to get better about is using stuff that I already own, especially, but also, finding fun and creative ways to use the stuff that I own. So this is probably one of the only instances I might bust out pattern paper is when I'm creating something for one of my pen pals, just because I kind of like to make it really special. And since I've rarely used pattern paper, it's pretty special when I make something with pattern paper. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And I did use my liquid glue for this just because I wanted the little bit of time to make sure that nothing was sitting over top of any of the folds, just to make sure that I had, I don't want to block in the folds, or you're going to have a heck of a time folding it to put it back in the envelope. And then you're, breaking cardstock and whatever. And I didn't want to do that. So I did use liquid glue just to make sure that I could kind of get what I needed. And then I'm going to create a vellum pocket to go on the inside. So I cut out a piece of vellum. This I cut out, I believe, I know it's 7 inches, but I'm not totally sure how high I made it. I think it's 3.5 inches. And then I just kind of took my scoreboard and my little, I use the Tim Holtz rub-on tool to do a lot of my scoring now, just because I find it's almost gentler on the papers that I'm using, because it's like a ball instead of a point, like the bone folders are. So I've been using it to score my paper, and I just created like a really thin score line with a little edge of the vellum. And then I just slowly folded the vellum over on the score line. And I did cut the corners so that it would not have to sit over top of itself, creating extra bulk, as I am mailing this to my pen pal, who does have to go internationally. So I don't want to have bulk from that kind of a thing. If there's going to be any bulk in it, it's going to be because I've, added fun stuff, not because the pocket has funny layers. And then I tore the top just because I like that look. I love how vellum tears. I just think it's so pretty. And then I did use liquid glue for this. Just be careful with that you don't, adhere your pocket shut on the bottom. But I thought liquid glue would just give me that little bit of time to kind of get it where I wanted it to sit. Because again, I don't want anything near the folds. So I made sure that was just a little ways away from the folded areas. And then I double checked that the paper I'm going to actually write my pen pal paper or my letter on is going to fit in that pocket. So that's what you saw me just doing there. And now we're going to decorate it with those cut aparts. So I brought out a couple of frames. I brought out some of the really pretty ladies that are in there. I know some people don't like to add people to their things, but I don't know. I'm a sucker for pretty. And these lady pictures or lady art, I guess, they're stunning. So, I'm a big component of pretty things, and these ladies are just gorgeous. So I don't have any issues adding ladies to things. I know some people don't like that because they're people. I don't really care. I think that, they're just pretty, so I'm perfectly okay with it. And I actually made this lady have some butterfly wings because I thought that was really neat. So I'm going to go around with my Vintage Photo Distress Oxide ink, and I do this for every element in this whole design. I might not show it on some of them, but I've done it. And then I'm just going to adhere these wings to her back just because I don't know, I thought it was a really fun element, and it brought in a little bit more of that kind of peachy red color, and I really like that color. I thought it was really pretty. I'm really into pink and tealy colors right now, like pink or coral or any of those colors with teals. I think they're stunning. So I've kind of been leaning that direction. And then I brought in this doily as well. This is just I got a set of doilies off of Amazon a while ago, but it came with 100 doilies. So I'm slowly working through these doilies and adding them to projects, but I just think that it adds such a fun texture and interest to your project. So I tend to bring in doilies, especially on my pen pal projects, just because I think that they add such a fun element that's just stunning. So I'm going to add this little doily to both the top left and the bottom right corner, and then I'm going to use the leftovers to put over the vellum pocket because I just wanted a little more interest there as well. And of course I do the alternating corners for that. But I thought this just turned out really pretty. So side note, for anybody who's been hanging out with me in the lives, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me, because it would be kind of funny if it was just me hanging out by myself. But in the last live that we did while we were making the envelopes for the festival that I'm going to tomorrow, if you don't know, I have my first table at a festival tomorrow, so I will be selling my cards, and I will be kind of documenting it in the vlog that's probably going to go up next week or possibly the week after. Just depends on how long it takes me to edit all of that footage. But I was making envelopes, and we were having a conversation about what we should do in the next live, and the conversation of ink blending came up. So I think we're going to do an ink blended card in the next live, but I need your guys' help as to what day we should do lives on. So I'd like to do a live every 2 weeks. That's kind of my goal. And I'd like to pick one day a week, and whatever that day happens to be, excuse me, and that will be the day that we go live. And so I'm going to put up a vote, like a poll in the community tab with just like the days of the week. And you let me know what day of the week is the best for you. The time will probably be something like 3 p.m. PST or something like that. And then we'll be there until the project is complete. So whatever we happen to be working on. So you guys let me know what you think would be the best, the most useful day for you. Ideally, it won't be Sunday or Monday, just because those are my husband's days off, and I like to spend those days with him. So if you don't see Sunday and Monday, that's why, is because I don't want to have I don't want to put it on a day that I would like to spend with him instead. So I'm going to put it like every other day. The other day, 5 days a week will be on there, and you can pick one. So, I mean, if you want a weekend day, Saturday will obviously be available. And then if you prefer a weekday, ideally, if we're going to do it during the week, I'd love it to be on Thursdays, just because then it's on the day that I would do a video anyway. So then I just maybe wouldn't do a video posted that day. We would have just a live later in the day instead. So stuff like that. So I'm going to put that up, and we'll see what you guys think is the best day of the week. Just because the problem with Tuesday is that I post videos Monday. So now I would be doing like a video posted Monday, a video posted Thursday, and then a live Tuesday, although it's only every 2 weeks. So we'll talk about it and see what we can do. So I'll have those days up. And if, there's a specific time that's more appropriate for you, let me know, because I know that some of my viewers are in Europe and, different places that, maybe the time would be better at a different time zone. So let me know, because of course I'm working off of PST, because I'm Canadian. So, and I live on the West Coast, which is PST. So, but yeah, if you're interested in checking out the lives and you want to come and hang out, we're going to start making cards together. So just go and vote on that community tab, because I can only go off of the people who vote. So if you don't vote, then I guess you don't, maybe you're not going to join me in the live, so it doesn't matter anyway. But yeah, go and vote on whatever day you think is the best day for your work life, for your work balance, and let me know, what day you think would be the best for you, and we'll see what we can make work. But yeah, so you've seen now that I've finished the inside, and I'm kind of decorating the front of this. I'm going to call it a folio, because I think that's the best. Penpal folio. And I really wanted to bring in some butterflies and different elements. So I'm going to adhere this on half of the front. So it's going to sit over top of both sides. It's going to be perfectly centered, it's centered. It's up a little bit. Like, it's not perfectly centered. It's slightly to the top. But I'm not going to adhere it to the right-hand side. I'm only going to adhere it on the left-hand side, other than the butterfly who sits on the frame, but it will only be adhered to the frame, because obviously I need this to open, right? So anything that I'm gluing down can only be glued onto the left-hand side, or you're not going to open this. Or you could adhere it the whole way across and then cut it, but I don't really like that look, so I chose not to do that. And I am adding a little bit of a curve to the butterflies, though I mean they're going to be mailed, so they're going to end up being smushed and be flat anyway, really. But it makes me happy to add the little bit of height to them, so that's what I was thinking. But yeah, everything is adhered to the left-hand side of this folio so that it easily opens. And I double check that, like you can see me sticking my hand underneath that frame consistently, just to make sure that I haven't put any glue there, so that I'm not worried about the fact that it's not going to open. And then I do bring in that little clip every once in a while just to hold it shut, so that I can easily adhere things, because of course it doesn't want to stay shut, as there's so many layers on the inside that it really wants to kind of pop open. And I thought about adding other things. Like I considered adding a Velcro piece to the right-hand side of the little framed piece here, just to hold it shut. But I opted not to in the end because I was worried that since it's such a delicate, like the frame is pretty delicate, I really didn't want the Velcro piece to kind of try to rip it off, right? Because if you try to open it and you pull a little too hard, because it's kind of delicate, I was worried it might rip. So I chose to just leave this how it is, and I did not add a Velcro dot or anything to it so that I would stay closed, because it's going to stay closed in the envelope anyway. And then, I mean, once it arrives to the person it's going to, it doesn't really matter if it doesn't want to, like, she could do whatever she wants with it. Once it's out of my possession, the owner is welcome to do whatever they want to do with it. That's perfectly fine by me, but I chose not to because I really didn't. I knew that if it was received and then she ripped it, she'd probably feel bad. So I chose not to make it so that it would adhere that way. So it's just kind of float. And luckily, I mean, it stays close in the envelope, so that's okay. And then this is the paper that I'm going to actually write the letter on. And so I just wanted to decorate it a little bit. So I added just these extra strips of cardstock that I had cut off when we were actually making the panels to kind of decorate the craft paper. And then I added some butterflies because you guys know I love butterflies. I don't think there's going to be a time and a place where I'm not stupid excited about butterflies. They're one of my favorite things ever. So I did kind of just adhere those onto the top of the paper, and of course I'll write that later just because it is private. I don't share the letters. I share the folios and whatever that I make, but nobody gets to see the letter because that is private between me and my pen pal. And then I am going to decorate an envelope as well because I wanted this to be like you guys can see the whole project. So I brought in just another piece of the pattern paper that we had used to kind of color or decorate the inside, and I'm just kind of tearing it up and adhering it to the envelope. Now, I mail a lot of things because I have a lot of pen pals, so I'm not worried about that kind of a thing. But if you are concerned about decorating the envelope, you could skip this step. You don't have to add decorations to the envelope. I like adding stuff, so I always do, but you by no means do you need to. But if you are going to, just make sure that it's adhered well. Just because sometimes if it's going to like the States or something, it goes through machines and whatnot, right? And I've had the machines rip stuff off before, so something to keep in mind. And then this is just a piece of tea-dyed paper that I made a couple weeks ago for a journal, actually. But I'm using some of it just to do that. So her address is going to go in this frame. So when I actually go to mail it, and I just use the tea-dyed paper because I thought that it was kind of fun, and it kind of, it's brown, first of all, so it kind of matches the whole craft vintage aesthetic, and I just thought that was kind of a fun way to use the tea-dyed paper because I actually did make quite a bit of it. So I didn't know how much I would need for the journal, so I just made like a ton of it, but yeah, it's kind of fun. And then I am going to put her name on the front, just her first name. I generally, when I'm sending pen pal letters, I don't do the last name in this kind of like fun, bold font or whatever. I don't do it. I just do the first name. So I've done her first name. It's Isabel. And then I'm going to kind of just adhere that down above the frame. And then her address will go in the actual frame. And then we kind of just going to decorate it with a few more butterflies and this really pretty lady. Cause again, I don't know. It's funny because there aren't a lot of cardstocks or whatevers that do men. Like I have a few that have some cool gents. I think it was mostly I bought a steampunk set of papers recently and they have some gentlemen in it, but as a general rule I kind of find that more often than not it's actually there's like pretty ladies, but there aren't a lot of like gentlemen, so it's kind of funny that way. But I mean I don't really mind. I think that as a general rule people are more drawn to pretty ladies than they are to using gentlemen, so maybe that's why it's just like a marketing thing. But yeah, so, and these cut aparts are actually double-sided, so you can hear like I'm adhering glue, so you can have her facing either direction, which is one of the things I love about these cut aparts. And if you guys know me at all, you know that I love to fussy cut, so I get these cut aparts because you get a whole bunch for not that much money. Like I think the Kraft Cardstock ones cost me like $12 Canadian, which is like I don't even know, $8 American. And it gives you all of those sheets. Like I showed you the pack of them. There's like six cut apart sheets in there. And they easily have like, I don't know, 30, depending on what it is. If it's all butterflies, the sheet has a ton of them. If they're like all these pretty ladies, there's not quite as many, but you get so many cut aparts for not very much money. So if you enjoy fussy cutting, you should definitely check out some of these cut apart sheets because they're inexpensive and you get a lot of ephemera to work with, which I think is a lot of fun because then you can kind of just try all different pieces. So something to think about if you're like me and you enjoy fussy cutting. I sit at the couch with my husband in the evenings when he's playing video games, and I cut apart the fussy cuts, or I write pen pal letters. This just depends on what I'm up to that night, but I just find it like really relaxing and kind of fun. So that's kind of what I like to do. But there you saw I adhered her name just on the frame there, and then I'm going to add a couple more butterflies. And at this point I adhered just the centers and then realized that this was the envelope, so I couldn't do that. So I do go back later and I adhere the whole butterfly because I can't have pieces sticking up on the envelope because it can get caught. Another thing is you could actually put it in a sleeve and then you wouldn't have to worry about it. But I generally don't like to do that because I kind of like the envelope to get a little bit of wear and tear. Excuse me. I just think that adds to the I don't know, the appeal, the look, the interest. I don't know. I think it's kind of fun. But here is the final look at this pen pal pocket for Isabel. I love how it turned out. This pattern paper is stunning. Like, I'm just so excited. I honestly don't know if you can still get this paper, but any beautiful paper would work for this. This is just the one that I happen to own, and I've owned it for a while, so I don't know if it's even still available, but there you go. So that is what I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already, as I do new videos every Monday and Thursday, and like I said, we're going to add some live content. So thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.